玛利亚·普利文，美国舞蹈治疗协会认证的高阶注册舞蹈动作治疗师，美国认证心理咨询师，意大利心理学家，并作为先驱在意大利、芬兰和土耳其拓展舞蹈治疗。
My name is Marcia Plevin. I'm an American who has lived in Rome, Italy for many, many years. I was a professional dancer, choreographer, and contemporary dance teacher before I developed creative movement method Garcia-Plevin with my colleague, Maria Garcia. The creative movement method Garcia-Plevin has been taught in Rome since 1993, and in the Accademia Nazionale di Danza since 2001. Because of its effectiveness and innovation in teaching creative consciousness within a non-judgmental environment, and its application to prepare a dancer's perception and sensibility to movement, the method became part of the training program for professional dancers and dance teachers. The training emphasizes creative process learning through various experiences which aim to help the student become aware and present to the body in what we name in a chapter of our book, Creative Movement and Dance, the Art of Presence. The teacher or guide of a creative movement class has a non-judgmental attitude towards the students, giving them permission to discover new ways of expression. Learning how to play with movement again for a technically trained dancer helps to liberate spontaneity and liberates improvisations, which encourage physical and mental awareness. The movement theories of Rudolf Laban and Bartoniev and Peggy Hackney are taught within the training curriculum, which deepen a student's ability of observing themselves and others, and is part of their creative process learning. By teaching this method, it became essential to understand from the student's perspective what the value and significance of creative movement may be for a professional dance training curriculum. After every course that was taught since 2001, Patrizia Macagno distributed a questionnaire of 10 questions that serve to answer our main question of what is the value and significance of this method. We will specifically look at 5 of these questions in our following discussion. Question number 1. Have you experienced a change in consciousness of your body? The course has created the connection consciousness between how I feel inside and how I feel outside. It has helped me put sentiments and emotions I feel inside my dancing. I have a greater awareness of my body, yes, but I also sense a greater artistic maturity. What has helped me have more awareness of my own body was through sharing experiences with other members of my group, both verbally and in movement. Question number 2. Has your perception of weight, space, and time, use of energy changed, and how? I have underestimated the act of perceiving time. I had the time to listen to my body, a new experience. I realized that I only used the big or small spaces around my body, the kinesphere, never the intermediate or middle kinesphere. I realized how energy can lead from various parts of the body, how an impulse for movement can come not only from the periphery, but also from small internal impulses from the center. I can experiment varied and diverse rhythms with these impulses, and I can use all the space of the room or only the space around myself. Teachers always told me to use more space. I did not understand what this meant. Analyzing space through its different levels, the kinesphere being direct or indirect, has helped me discover creative possibilities and move in new ways. Laban work helps me identify dynamics of movement through the integration of space, time, flow, and weight. Question number 3. have you sensed a personal development through creative movement study? I would say I learned about inner consciousness. I learned about a part of me that has been hiding. Yes, I thought I was not very creative, but in reality, I never let myself play with movement for fear of looking ridiculous, being ridiculed. This movement research has touched the deepest part of me. Many experiences touched me personally, and this has transformed itself into expressivity. Question number 4. Have images, sensations, memories, emotions brought new stimuli for your movement research? Before I took this course, play or improvisation was very difficult for me. I am now much more at ease with not knowing what comes next. I do not fear surprises. It gave me more psychological freedom with ample space for fantasy and creativity. Question number 5. What have you become aware of in relationship to yourself and the transformational body tracing? It has been an indispensable diary of developing body knowledge. Above, we see 3 different students, TBTs. Working on the transformational body tracing over time has given me a different way of knowing myself, to see my body knowledge and consciousness develop in color, shape, and form week after week. What can we conclude is the value of creative movement in a dance training curriculum? We have found that the course develops an artistic maturity in students by their becoming more aware, sensitive, and conscious of their own body. This offers a deeper level of self-understanding, which aids them in being creative in their own movement and being responsive and inventive with a choreographer. Students have brought aspects of the creative movement method into their own style of moving, in their approach also to dance teaching. Their attitude towards both improvisation and technique has changed.
The Dance for PD, or Parkinson's Disease Program, was founded in 2001 as a collaboration between the New York-based Mark Morris Dance Group, an internationally renowned modern dance company, and the Brooklyn Parkinson Group, with the goal of creating rigorous, creative, artistic dance classes for people with Parkinson's, their family members, and their friends. The idea was not to provide any kind of therapy. It was simply to invite people with Parkinson's into a dance studio for an opportunity to work with professional dancers and learn many of the strategies and skills that they have learned in the service of graceful, fluid, and rhythmic movement. The idea from the beginning has always been that dancers are specially trained in areas that pertain to balance, coordination, musicality, flexibility, and social interaction. I started professional dance training at the age of 8. And by the time I moved to New York in 1996, I was interested in working as a professional dancer here in the city. I started working with choreographer Mark Morris in 1997 and joined the Mark Morris Dance Group in 1998, where I danced for almost 15 years. During that time, we started to develop the Dance for PD program using all of the strategies and training that I and my other teaching colleagues had developed over many years of dance instruction. And what we realized over that period is that all of the skills and strategies that dancers use in their daily training, in their rehearsal, and in their performance opportunities are incredibly valuable for people living with Parkinson's disease and other movement disorders. A typical Dance for Parkinson's class lasts approximately 75 minutes. And in the class, we use strategies from a variety of techniques. We integrate technique and styles that include ballet, tap, modern, jazz, flamenco, and other forms of dance from around the world. We also integrate social dance and repertory from the companies in which these classes take place. So, for example, we use Mark Morris repertory that we adapt and make especially accessible to our population here at the Mark Morris Dance Center. An important component of our class is the combination of structured dances that are choreographed, learned, and practiced, and what we call creative dances. Those are dances that are made up, created, or choreographed by the participants themselves. And it's very important to us, using our knowledge of what people with Parkinson's contend with in their daily lives, that they have a chance both to follow and learn movement and practice that movement, as well as to problem solve and think creatively about movement that they generate on their own. In terms of our class progression, we tend to feature about 70% of the material as structured dances. These are both technical exercises as well as learned choreography. About 30% of our program is based on creative movement, and these creative movement opportunities give participants a chance to explore the full range of movement possibilities open to them. In Parkinson's disease, automatic movements, things like walking or turning or getting up from a chair, become more difficult. So people have to think much more consciously about their movements. And that's why the creative movement aspect of our program is so important, because it forces people to think very mindfully and consciously about the movements that they're doing. This is a skill that they need to use every moment of every day as they navigate their worlds. Whether they're at home or in a store or out on the sidewalk, they have to think very consciously and mindfully about the movement decisions they make. And there's no better place to practice that than in the dance studio. So the creative movement part of class, in my opinion, is as important as the structured dances that we learn. And it serves a very specific role. It gives people with Parkinson's a chance to have agency and create things from their own imaginations, rather than having them imposed from outside or by the teachers. Both are important because obviously people with Parkinson's need to practice a number of very specific motor skills. And often those skills have to be given in class and laid out and cued so that people actually have a chance to learn them and execute them with a sense of mastery. However, the other side of that is that we feel it's very important for people with Parkinson's to have an opportunity to generate movement on their own using a particular story idea, a narrative, a relationship that they're forming in class. So in every class, we integrate elements of mirroring improvisation and storytelling to give people with Parkinson's a chance to be their own choreographers. In mirroring activities that we do in class, we will often choose one leader and one follower. The leader is responsible for creating movement and generating that movement, and the follower has to follow along as closely as he or she can. But we always encourage our participants to really find the essence of the movement, because we never want someone to feel forced to follow a particular movement that's uncomfortable for them. And so we ask them and we encourage them to look at the essence. What is the quality of this movement? What are some of the directions that their leader is asking them to go in? Where is their focus? And this awareness of movement gives people a sense of connection and attachment. And that's the other part of the creative movement component of our class. It's not just about the individual working to generate or explore his or her own movement potential. It's also about developing a creative relationship with the other members of the group. And this is particularly important in Parkinson's, where people often feel quite socially isolated from each other. They feel cut off. In class, through the creative material, they're able to work together to form bonds, to form the kinds of connections that happen when we create art together. And through the creative movement activities, we are very much creating an artistic experience together and becoming more connected as a result of it. In this excerpt from Capturing Grace, a film directed by David Iverson and released in 2014, you'll see members of the Brooklyn Dance for PD class exploring their own movement and sharing that movement as part of a large community. Each person has to create a movement and execute that movement for a while before passing it on to someone else. And you'll see the sense of connection and ownership that happens in the class.
There's a sense of dignity. people with limited coordination performing on their own, and some of them doing things that are well beyond what they thought they could do.
There are a few key points about creative movement in the Parkinson's class that I think are important to take away. Number one, we always encourage people to move comfortably within their bodies. So if there's anything within the improvisation or something their partner is doing that doesn't feel right, they know they always have the option to change it, to modify it, and to re-choreograph. Number two, we invite people to find the essence of movement, not necessarily to imitate it verbatim, but to find the essence of quality and direction and focus that they see or that they want to generate. Even moving a finger with intention is dancing in our class. Number three, we encourage people to problem solve, to figure things out along the way with a sense of fun and enjoyment. So at no point in the class do they feel that they are being tested or evaluated, but rather we try to set up a situation where there is a sense of play and creative engagement at all times. Number four, we feel that the integration of music is incredibly important throughout the entire class, whether it's in the structured component of class or the more creative improvisatory part of class. It's important to use music well. So for the more structured dances, we tend to be very rhythmic with our movements. In the improvised parts of class, we use music quite differently. We're really trying to create a tone or a sense of story or a sense of atmosphere. So we're less tied to the rhythm. And I think that's important in the Parkinson experience because we want people to have music as a cue, to have rhythm as a cue, to drive them forward. That sense of groove, that sense of motivation, propulsion. But we also want them to start to explore and feel their own rhythmic sense. And the only way to do that sometimes is to take out the external rhythm and have them generate an internal rhythm, an internal musicality through the creative movement process. Finally, I think it's important to acknowledge that improvisation and creative movement aren't easy for everybody. And so we sometimes have to think about different frames to generate that kind of engagement. Sometimes we'll work through a story and ask people to take on different characters and use that as a way to get into improvisation. Sometimes we'll think about a particular theme, like a sports event or a holiday or a season, to help people think and generate movement on their own. I find it always easier to provide a framework and perhaps even some colors through which people can paint rather than just providing a blank canvas. And so my job as a facilitator in the creative movement part of class is to provide some of those colors and tools that people can use to generate their own movement, rather than simply having a very open-ended exercise that makes it difficult for people who are not experienced dancers and improvisers to know where to start. So you have to give people some tools and some guidelines to get them started. That actually makes it easier for them then to create movement and to feel that they have agency over that generation process.
I'm very aware of what it means to take on another culture, to learn another language. I feel very privileged to bring creative movement into China. As a creative movement teacher, it is important to observe your culture's ways of communicating. Female and male movement, children, adolescents, senior citizens, to observe the spoken language and body gestures made when a person is speaking or being silent. This both in daily life and in class. A Western student, and here I am speaking about an American student, is educated to be an individualist. The Chinese student, on the other hand, seems to be encouraged or to have been disciplined to stay within the tradition, to comply, to conform, and not move out of line. Yet this is exactly what develops intuition, invention, and a newness by doing just that, stepping out of the box or out of line. In my Chinese experience of teaching, I have found that within a non-judgmental environment, a student will experiment moving or thinking differently without the fear of being ridiculed or laughed at. In other words, without the fear of losing face. Teaching creative movement brings a student to know oneself, which means in Chinese not to save one's face, but actually to lose it. But losing in this situation is not negative. It means to find one's true face. I am talking now about a brief observation I've made about a particular movement quality I've observed. Following that is how a creative movement experience helped a student shift out of her usual pattern of moving and thinking, which helped her make an important decision in her life. In general, it is difficult for Chinese women to be assertive, strong, or quick in their movement. This is what is known in Laban as an effort pattern. These particular actions may go against a cultural understanding of what a woman is supposed to be in Chinese society, which is more soft, compliant, to remain behind, to wait, to be in a more hesitating, retreating position. A Chinese woman uses a movement pattern that tends towards a free flow use of energy with slow, sustained movement and a light approach to weight. During a creative movement class using play and improvisation, will this woman lose face if she experiments with and allows a stronger side to express herself? She might very well enjoy using this energy and strength, but has never had the opportunity to do so. In one of our creative movement classes with an improvisation theme of moving from light to strong movement qualities, this woman had the possibility to experiment with her body as being strong, forceful, and quick, opening her normal body range in space and walking forward in that space very decisively and strong. This had the effect of bringing the woman to realize that at this point in her life, she had to leave home, to leave her family, find friends, or live alone. She found the strength, the soma, and reasoning, the psyche, to do so through the transformation of changing body shapes and movement qualities. Another observation is the importance of language translation in the process from when I speak English to Chinese or vice versa. It is very important because it is also a transformative energetic process where new knowledge, identities, and meanings are produced between myself as a teacher and my students. Western teachers need to negotiate multiple transformation in the localizing or bentuhua process, transferring a Western concept to be understood by an Eastern mind. I try to see and observe out of a Chinese lens, while of course not being Chinese. And many times I need to stop with my translator to check out whether what I'm saying or what the student is saying is understood. In these cross-cultural moments, ideas and clarifying concepts are born on both sides, both West and East.